Vani. In the while B2C has its own challenge, B2B B2B has been struggling post the pandemic situation, given that the interaction with the consumers in the B2B environment and experiences just completely went out of the window. For B2B marketers, what would be your advice for 2021 on how to create awareness, leads, and build trust in a low touch economy?
Hmm. So, it's a very interesting question, Chanpreet. When COVID hit, I remember I was talking to Sterling Holidays at that time, and they've and it's not just Sterling Holidays. There are a number of businesses that have only relied on physical
Right.
interactions, and especially so for B2B, because B2B is actually man to man. B2B is about building trust with the people behind the business. It's not so much about what you offer. Because in B2B, if let's say I'm a warehousing facility, then there are several warehousing facilities out there. But the one that I want to bring on board is the one where the people behind that business I feel comfortable doing with. The people behind the business are such that I feel, oh, I can pick up the phone anytime on such and such person. Or, if I have to ask for a favor, it shouldn't feel like a favor, because it's not about a toothbrush that you're selling, and you don't need to know the people behind the ones who make the toothbrush or the ones who sell it or market it. It's very, very different. So in B2B, actually building trust in the COVID era became the single most significant challenge, and the only way to overcome it was by over communicating. And that was tough, because you can't communicate in a way as to not be empathetic either. You have to make sure that you are having that conversation only when the other person is prepared to listen to you, and that you're serving just the information that would be most useful to the other party, irrespective of whether it makes a direct sale or not. In fact, this is what brings me back to what I first mentioned about content marketing. So B2B is actually far tougher. It really tests the mettle of a marketer, because you have to stay invested in the long term, and you have to be able to constantly provide the right content in order to build relationships in the long term. The other thing about B2B is that it's never one single person. If you think of a large organization like a Unilever or an Infosys or any such organization, there is never one person alone who would make a large decision that would impact the future of the company. When it comes to, let's say,
Okay.
a certain software that has to be adopted in the entire company, or if it's a new warehousing facility, or it's a new video conferencing facility, or it's about robotic processes at automation or anything of the kind. So there could be the CIO, the CFO, the CTO, the CMO, the CEO. With all of these different CXOs, each has his own agenda. And it's important that you, as a supplier, are able to speak to every man in his own language. So, which means that your marketing collaterals can't be one alone. You have to design collaterals and videos and infographics and create content and be present on relevant platforms where each of these separate parties would be present on. So I've done a lot of work with B2B clients, and I find it very exciting for just this reason, because we do a lot of short format videos. We do a lot of, then it's also about breaking it down to, the simple stuff that, so for example, I'm working with a robotic processing automation firm right now. And the challenge is that with the CFO, we have to sell him the logic for why this is required in the organization, because as of now, business seems to be running fine without it. But with the CIO, we have to sell him the logic that we're the best at it. So both the messaging tack is itself different. And accordingly, one has to create content that's tailored to the need of that specific stakeholder. So it's in the case of B2B, coming back to your question, it is a mix of various tools, and it has to be a long-term approach, and it has to be a lot of focused content towards building thought leadership. One has to go narrow, not wide, in the sense that one has to identify exactly who are the stakeholders I'm going to influence, and then stay invested with them in the long term. It's all about, actually, it's not so much about having a great, competent product. It's almost as though your product itself could be irrelevant, because that's hygiene, that's table stakes. You just have to make sure that you meet the minimum point of parity. But what you have to absolutely excel on is building trust and relationships. Because if I feel confident that I can pick up the phone on Chanpreet and have a conversation with her at any time, then I'd rather do business with you
Yes.
and with someone else who has the same product but I don't feel comfortable talking to.